Yes.
Eventually got rid of it. Like, I didn't want to believe that.
Well, that's just it. Nobody wants to believe that. Nobody wants to believe that they're not in charge of their own life. You ask any person out there, any of the 280 million people that are in the United States, that they admit are in the United States, there's more than 280 million, and you ask them, are you in control of your life? 90% will say, oh yes, I pay my bills, I go to work, I drive my car, I do whatever I want to do, and nobody tells me what to do. Ah, but where's the thought in your mind saying what you want to do? Who's telling you that you have to have credit cards? Who's telling you you have to own a house and you have to have a car and you have to work 9 to 5 and you have to have this, bum, 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 all the way? Who designed that? Oh yes, you're under control every breath you take.
The Tibetan book of the dimensions, the Bardo states. Could these be Bardo states?
Related to that, but you're getting me scared because you know a lot of things. Yes?
Is this why we developed like an oversoul and all of these?
Oh, the oversoul was there first.
Right, but isn't that what we're supposed to be in totality? And this is just an example of all these life streams?
Another savant, let me tell you. She said, isn't this the way we're supposed to be? Isn't that what the oversoul does? And you know what? She's right. In fact, any of you read Janet's article on God, mind, and fragmentation?
Yeah.
I think she may talk about that tomorrow. But God, mind fragments itself in order to understand itself. Now let's look at the difference. God, mind fragments itself into oversoul, and the oversoul into different layers of reality and different life streams within those realities, etc., etc. That way it gets wide-ranging experience and knows every possibility that could happen. Yes. Now, so fragments, 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 and even within your own body, your body divides into billions of cells, different systems within the cells, etc., etc. They break down the cells into molecules, and the molecules into quantum particles, and the quantum particles into subquantum particles, and then that is into energy, which then feeds back to original God mind. So yes, it fragments so that it goes back to the original part. You understand? This doesn't. This does never go back to original. It just goes fragment, fragment, fragment. The more fragment, the better. No reintegration. That's the difference. Within the context of God mind, natural fragmentation reintegrates. Write that down. Natural fragmentation within God mind ultimately reintegrates. That's the way it should be. In mind control and programming, no reintegration is allowed. It's total and permanent fragmentation. That's the difference. So could there be a way of reintegrating? Absolutely. Can it be done in physical reality under these circumstances? No. Why? Because of all the technological bombardment and procedures that are perpetrated every moment, cannot do it. And so that's the difference. Now I'm going to repeat. Anyone who tells you that they are totally reintegrated and totally deprogrammed, either they're lying or they just don't know what it's about. Yes?
But aren't we here, all of us, on Earth because we're unnaturally fragmented?
No.
I mean, aren't we here because we want to learn, but
Yes.
the fragmentation that took place originally?
For the purpose then of reintegration,
Yeah.
naturally. That's not what this is about. This
No,
is
I know.
permanent fracture.
Yeah, I know.
Yes.
However, everything still has to come from consciousness, energy. Even if it's been set up, it's still part of God mind. So somewhere you can maybe, so we're talking about a very long time.
It's not in the context of a lifetime.
Not in context of what you call a regular lifetime.
That's what I'm saying. In your lifetime, you will never be fully deprogrammed. That's what I'm telling you. That is not possible.
But
So when you get put into another body, then that body has a soul picked out for it also? I mean,
Yeah,
it's
you.
Naturally.
You.
No, but if you artificially put in a body, it's your soul.
Most of the time, the body is artificially created in the first place, or orchestrated its creation so that a captured personality can be put in. You know, it's like this. When you move from house to house, you don't always buy new furniture every time you move. It gets very expensive. You take the furniture with you. When the Illuminati spend so much time and effort in creating a fragmented, compartmentalized person who's heavily programmed, death, physical death, is not the end. The soul personality is then put into the new housing and continued.
Would they also say take you out of the body if they feel that you might be escaping on some level of programming?
Absolutely.
So they're saying, oh, we're checking Susie out, she's getting out, let's pull her out, throw her in another body.
Yes and no. You can't. You have to load the specifics. There are some people who are no longer useful. They're kind of put out to pasture. Those are the older people who may develop Alzheimer's disease or dissociative disorders. They're put in mental institutions because their programming is coming to the surface. Their personality fragments are interchanging with each other, and they're seen as schizophrenic or bipolar or multiple personality, and they're put away. And who's going to ever listen to them or believe them? They're put on medication, that's the end of them. Others whose programming has become invalid. Because remember, some of this has been put in the 40s and the 50s and the 60s, but the agenda has been fine-tuned since then, and many programs are no longer valid or necessary, but the person isn't in a position to be reprogrammed anymore, either because they're too old or they can't handle it, or whatever the reason may be. The programmers died and they can't download it, so they kill them.
And then they do the same soul extraction business?
Only if that person is needed. Usually once the programming is invalid, that's the end of it.
What about clones? Do they share the same interests?
Of?
They clone people
Mhm.
and they create an laboratory.
No.
They have the same-
No, because different mind pattern. Remember, even though someone's a clone, it's not an exact copy. It looks like exact, but it isn't. There are differences.
Would it have a soul?
Everything living has a soul. Everything. Now, is that under control? Is that monitored? That's most likely. All of the clones that the government creates of human beings are mind controlled. All of them. Yes?
Could this be metaphorically thought of as hell?
I call Earth hell all the time. I think this is as low as you can get. Really.
So being here eternally would be a hell.
Absolutely.
A form of living hell.
Especially if you live in New Jersey.
And how about, what about your choice in doing it? We're all making choices in doing, we have to give permission to be doing this?
Well, on some level, you do it because you need the experience or you want the experience. That's an oversoul matter. But that is not what we're going to talk about today. Yeah.
If we don't resolve all of our programming in this lifetime, do we carry it over into another lifetime?
Yes.
I don't mean like in a comic sense either.
No, yes, and that is why I mentioned last night that programming is generational. It goes through descendancy. You will enter into a body or family that is in that genetics.
So if you recognize it, doesn't that help undo it?
If you recognize what?
The patterns, the generational patterns.
Mhm. Well, it's a start. I mean, it's a clue something is not right here. Yeah, but then what do you do with that? That's the question. What do you do? Knowing isn't enough.
But I think what he's asking is that deprogramming information can have started 1,000 years ago.
Yeah, or more.
And so that's also inherited.
It becomes genetic, right?
Uh,
And that's what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, so they're not necessarily so perfect that they're in touch with all of that. And
Well-
maybe that's a compartment in the back somewhere.
We're going to get to all of that. You're all jumping the gun here, and I need to finish this. They have to tell me.
You guys want to take one?
No.
From the age habit.
torture starts in utero. Hmm? It's in utero. But actually, a little before, what they do, it's really part of the ritual ceremony, but I'll briefly mention it, is when a woman is pregnant and the baby is going to be part of the slave, mind-controlled person category, they do what they call a moon child ceremony underneath the full moon. And what they do in the ceremony is evoke demons or astral entities to enter into the womb to fragment the child's mind or to control the child's mind. And during the course of pregnancy, there will be in utero tortures. For example, they will stick needles into the womb and pierce the body of the fetus. They will hurt the woman's abdomen so that the child is bruised. They will create scare conditions for the pregnant woman so that the child is actually